Malolole, Kirana, bonjour, welcome to the Pacific Way. In September 2013, Pacific leaders signed an historic declaration which called for the establishment of a Pacific Regional Data Repository, or PRDR, in support of the UN's Sustainable Energy for All initiative. The Pacific community was tasked to develop and host the PRDR, which now provides developers and donors in the energy sector with access to up-to-date, accurate and appropriate data from both energy suppliers and energy users to ensure effectiveness and efficiency in any energy-based project.
Considered the world's last frontier, the Pacific, which consists of 25,000 islands, have often been at the tail end of global development. However, when it comes to the impacts, these islands have been at the forefront of rising sea levels and harsh climatic conditions, and they pay the highest energy prices in the world. In 2016, 12 Pacific nations joined more than 160 other countries in signing the historic Paris Agreement, the climate treaty calling for drastic cuts in greenhouse emissions. According to the United Nations, energy is the major contributor to climate change, accounting for around 60% of total global greenhouse gas emissions. And reducing the carbon intensity of energy is a key objective in long-term climate goals. Given the growing importance of energy for economic development and climate change mitigation, the Framework for Action on Energy Security in the Pacific, FAESP, was adopted in 2010. In 2011, the Sustainable Energy for All initiative was launched, and the United Nations designated 2014 to 2024 as the Decade of Sustainable Energy for All, or C for All. This initiative has three interrelated targets of ensuring universal access to modern energy services, doubling the rate of improvement in energy efficiency, and doubling the share of renewable energy in the global energy mix. In 2013, at the Pacific Leaders Energy Summit, the hosts and Tongan government pushed for the establishment of the Pacific Regional Data Repository, or PRDR.
At the end of that meeting, the leaders identified absence of reliable energy information and data as a key barrier to the advancement of the energy sector. And so they came up with this initiative, the Pacific Regional Data Repository. It's supposed to be a one-stop shop for energy data and information, so that anyone within the countries and within the region, external stakeholders, development partners, who wants to know and who wants to get information about the energy sector of the Pacific Island countries can go to this, the Pacific Regional Data Repository.
Through the successful leadership efforts of the Government of Tonga and the support of the United Nations Economic and Social Commission of Asia and the Pacific, UNESCAP, 11 Pacific countries signed on to the declaration of the PRDR at the margins of the United Nations General Assembly in September 2013. In 2014, at the second combined joint meeting of the Transport and Energy Ministers in Fiji, the Pacific Community, or SPC, was nominated by member countries to develop the PRDR and host it on an interim basis. Later that year, SPC officially launched the PRDR at the 3rd United Nations Small Islands Developing States SIDS conference in Samoa as a fine example of a partnership to address the sustainable development challenges of the Pacific SIDS.
The innovation, I would call it, of the Pacific Regional Data Repository in support of Sustainable Energy for All initiative is an online energy database of both raw and processed data that is intended to be user-friendly, accurate, and comprehensive. Our role as SCAP in this process of development of PRDR has been to facilitate process in the early stages, making use of an ongoing project on energy affordability and South-South cooperation.
In September 2015, Pacific Energy Ministers, in recognition of SPC's technical capacity and commitments, agreed for SPC to become the permanent host of the PRDR. The World Bank is a key partner in strengthening the development of the PRDR, supporting the initial funding from the Australian government in the design and setup of the online portal.
All of the countries in the Pacific need to have more reliable, updated, sustainable data available for their own energy sector development, and at the same time, if they're seeking for financing from development partners, from private sector, you need data for that purpose. Those national priorities then turn into a regional priority, and therefore I think it's a very good aggregation of that. At the same time, you know that some countries in the Pacific don't have specific websites where to find the data. So the PRDR in itself also constitutes or provide that window or that sort of space where to show and make the data available for those countries.
The PRDR stores 4 sectors of data, and they include utility, petroleum and transport, renewable energy project data, and social economic data. An important aspect of Pacific countries' sustainable energy development plans and roadmaps is they have set timelines for achieving their sustainable energy goals and targets. But in order to do that, reliable data and information are needed to enable leaders to make informed decisions, formulate effective policies, and replicate best practices. The Pacific Regional Data Repository, or PRDR, provides the perfect platform for that.
Often we find that we do the same thing over and over again because we don't have data. We don't have the sufficient data in place, and so the PRDR is a platform where you get to learn what others are doing. Like some of the things that in Vanuatu that we plan to do, it has been done elsewhere, especially in the Pacific. And instead of reinventing the wheel, doing the same thing over and over again, you can just tap into that website and extract whatever you want from there.
Pacific Regional Data Repository, it has been very useful so far in Samoa, especially for our data collection. And this data will be more accessible for our energy stakeholders, and it's like a one-stop shop for data providers. So for us, our energy departments, we always prepare and compile annual energy review reports. And this data from our energy data providers, it needs to be available for us to access. So PRDR, it's been very useful so far in Samoa.
IRENA has its own global atlas, and we look at international information of all the different regions like Pacific, Africa, Caribbean, and Indian Ocean. So we cover those areas, but in terms of the Pacific, we know that PRDR exists, and we would like to partner up with SPC in sharing our information of renewable energy. so that we can assist the countries according to what their needs are, rather than duplicating their efforts and trying to do the same thing in the region.
Through the government of Tonga and the Pacific Leaders' vision, the Pacific Regional Data Repository setup not only facilitates the region's collective goal towards sustainable energy, but more importantly, helps to fast-track it.
Welcome back. You're watching The Pacific Way. Now we travel to Wotua village, located along the coral coast on the main island of Vitilevu in Fiji. Wotua village is setting an example on the importance of having community engagement and ownership for sustainable development of land and coastal resources. The Global Environment Facility brought stakeholders from around the region together for a workshop and spent a day in Wotua village to see firsthand the advantages and effectiveness of community ecosystem-based management. In this story, you will hear from the villagers themselves on how they work together to make this possible.
The Korolevui district is located in the heart of the Coral Coast and consists of 4 villages: Wotua, Wotualailai, Tangange and Namanda. With a population of almost 2,500 people living in over 400 households, tourism is the district's mainstay. Korolevui is a success story in community ecosystem-based management, demonstrating the significance of connecting communities with their environments for sustainable livelihoods and resilience. Underscoring the district's success was the project partnerships of local communities with the support of New Zealand Aid, the National Institute for Water and Atmospheric Research, the University of the South Pacific Institute of Applied Science, Fiji Locally Managed Marine Areas, Eco-ENG Limited, Rotary Pacific Water for Life Foundation, Habitat for Humanity, Reef Explorer Fiji Limited, and the GEF Pacific Ridge to Reef Program. Key community ecosystem-based management projects focused on the development of marine protected areas, or MPAs, water supply and wastewater treatment, and solid waste management. In October 2016, the Global Environment Facility Expanded Constituency Workshop for the Pacific organized a field trip to Wotua village for participants across the region to learn about the linkages between land and coast and the importance of community engagement for sustainable development outcomes.
This initiative for community-based management resources, it started in 2002. Where the Vanua and Davutukia, or the district, had their request in 2002, and this is where the partners came and have a discussion with the community and came out with identify issues, and also came out with the root causes, and also from that workshop we came out to establish a action plan or a management plan for the district.
As a result, marine protected areas or MPAs were established, banning destructive and unsustainable practices.
That the one colored red are the permanent area no-take zones, or the MPA. And the one in yellow are the temporary one. This can only be open when there is a function. Obligations for the Vanua and for the church.
Over the years, there has been considerable biodiversity impacts recorded, including the increase in coral cover, coral species, fish food species, fish food biomass, and almost $5 million in ecosystem service benefits provided annually from spillover supply. In a 5 to 10 year period from the early 2000s, social impacts accounted for income generating opportunities from MPA research of up to $500 a month since 2013. In Votua village alone, average of $10,000 a year since 2014. While there has been considerable progress made, challenges included community and stakeholder engagement in the development of the MPA and improved coordination between MPA development, fisheries management, and other natural resource management initiatives in the marine environment.
It has come to understanding within the villages, people has learned to organize themselves and also take ownership on these activities, and also the maintenance side of it to try and sustain these activities that we have, and also having a cross-learning lessons learned from the best practices that we have across to other provinces.
As we go along, as the climate changes and development has grown in our area here, most of our reefs have been damaged mostly by people, by overfishing, by not taking care of the marine life, as we were not aware of the consequences that we are going to face when we damage all those marine habitats that have been there to help us and for us to take awareness of them. That got us really interested in having this project.
Participants on a field trip to Votua village saw firsthand the work being done and heard from the villagers themselves on managing solid waste like rubbish collection, recycling, cleanups and composting.
As you can witness while inspecting the village, you can see the cleanliness of the village. Before we had this project going on and this environmental awareness, we were just taking an environment as for granted, you know. We didn't know that what we were doing will cause us problem.
A key project for the village focused on improving water supply and wastewater management. Dual-chamber septic tanks were installed, passing black water through vertical flow wetlands and flood irrigated down a wetland garden channel with flood-tolerant plants like bird of paradise and dalo.
The coconut husks that are already wet, put them outside and put new husks in.
A separate grey water system filters wastewater through half drums filled with coconut husk and discharged through the village drainage system. The community was heavily involved in risk identification and management planning processes, maintenance and repair of wastewater systems, awareness campaigns, and construction of low-tech, easy-to-maintain solutions. The inclusion of women and youth in the design, planning and implementation of the project was also critical to the success and sustainability of outcomes.
It's important for women and youth because they are the ones who are really the force for these activities. For women, they are the ones who are unseen within a project, but they are the ones who are they are the machinery for the activity. And all challenges, because they are the ones who identify the threats, the issues that do happen while a project is being implemented. And also for the youth too, they are the manpower for the projects. That's how I see they are very important.
When this project was done way back in February 2007, 2010, the families came together, you know, as well as the youths, and we came to learn more things about the reefs, about the diseases that associated with the grey water and black water. We've learned so much education for us youths, and we've learned how to keep this system going, you know, in case of maintenance.
Women particularly were identified as playing a crucial role in project design and implementation, identifying risks and monitoring.
Before they improve on the water system, what we found out in the village is kids have been having a lot of skin diseases. Children, and mostly children has been affected. And in 2006 to 2008, the water has been improved, and the kids, after that, I continued to do the survey, and kids have been improved on their health. There were no more diseases, especially skin diseases.
Through education on hygiene, health and water quality, Votua villagers have improved their capacity to monitor and manage their village health and overall quality of living. Through the one-day field trip, they were able to share these learnings and demonstrate these benefits to the Jeff ECW participants.
I think there was a lot of learning experience for us here in the field trip today. I think the wastewater treatment was one of the best work that has been done, but we've also seen marine protected areas and the wetlands and the work and economic empowerment of women through handicrafts. So that's a lot of work. But I think what we saw was the community empowerment.
And so I think what's most impressive here is the fact that we have a community which has come together using traditional values, traditional knowledge to solve a key environmental issue which they have. They've recognized what they need to do, they recognize the benefits of this particular activity, and this is why they've gone ahead and done it. I think this has been extremely impressive.
Korolevui is heralded as a success story in community ecosystem-based management, with lessons that can be shared across small island developing states. The outcomes demonstrate that by connecting communities with each other and their environments can improve sustainable livelihoods and resilience.
And that's all we have time for in this episode. For more videos and news, you can visit the Pacific Community YouTube channel and Pacific Way Facebook page. Until the next time, tofa soifua, mahalo, goodbye.